was listening to, again, another podcast of a female entrepreneur. One of the women who set up Olio, the food sharing app. And she was saying that when they were pitching to investors, and there's research behind this as well, I think from London Business School, women were always asked questions about how you stop profit loss, and the men were always asked questions about how you're going to create profit. So they were always directing the negative questions towards women. And she was talking about a strategy to pivot those questions into positive ones, right? Into positive answers. So I was thinking about that with this question, right? I think women do get asked, what are the issues? What are the barriers? What are the problems? And then we get stuck in these really heavy negative conversations, right? We all know.
I mean, it also shifts the burden of responsibility to you experience this disadvantage and you will solve this disadvantage, when the power lies where the privilege lies, and the privilege in this case doesn't lie with women. Exactly. And so listen to women's insights, because their lived experience amongst other kinds of expertise will inform a more productive solution. But you can't just be like, here is a woman's project.
Yeah, or great, we listened to them. We did the focus group. We know what they're upset about, or what they need, or what they want, and that's it. Nothing ever changes. So I do think I have been increasingly reflecting on men's participation in this conversation, because I think we are starting to see, or at least I am anyway, that this isn't really the shift towards pointing towards patriarchy as a main area of concern. It's slightly moving into, actually, maybe we have problems with the social contract, right? Maybe it's actually that this whole idea of the welfare state, of the way in which the state is meant to support people in education, health, etc., social cohesion, maybe that's the thing that's broken. Maybe that's the thing that needs healing. And I think men are realizing, or have realized, that patriarchy hasn't really worked for them either. And there's this kind of slow sort of like, where are we supposed to take our anger, our frustration? So I think the conversation's shifting a little bit. Certainly from my experience, I've spent most of my life as a feminist, and I still consider myself a feminist. But I do think that maybe leveling up our concerns beyond patriarchy or sexism or racism, things that we already know about, maybe ought to be the next step. So trying to understand what those power mechanisms look like and where they're not working.
I mean, I said I was a feminist before I knew exactly what the word meant, and the more I figure out, I'm like, I'm absolutely on this team. But a year and a half ago, I was looking for a definition of feminism, because I was writing an article about the feminist properties of transformative leadership, and I needed a citable definition of feminism beyond the vibes that I was giving off. And I found the Bell Hooks one from her book, I Think Feminism is for Everybody, which is feminism seeks the end of sexist oppression and oppression in all of its forms. And that felt whole and was great for the article, but also is now the way I think about feminism and think about including women in a full experience of what the world has to offer, is that we must discuss women, because women have experienced significant historical barriers. But in this discussion of women, there are many other things going on. And so it is the patriarchy and all the isms working together, and it is a project for everyone.
Yeah.
Like feminism completely includes men, and it also includes like people who don't exist at the gender binary as well.
Yes, yeah.
And everyone is, I hope and assume, based on my corner of the internet, people are realizing and recognizing, like, as you said, like all the social contracts are broken. Like the social contract of the patriarchy didn't serve women and didn't really serve men, because even though the subjugation of women allowed them to rest above women, they could not experience the fullness of humanity, because men must be hard and strong and like breadwinners and never complain. Like, that's also kind of bad.
Yeah.
And it was funny when you said the podcast about women seeking investment. I interviewed some angel investors, because I'm really interested in innovation and how it happens. And so I interviewed 10 angel investors who come from historically underfunded backgrounds about why they became angels, because I decided it was if I don't do it, no one else will argument. And they all had these stories of, if you're a woman at a pitch event, or if you're on a pitching panel and a woman is speaking, everyone is asking how she'll manage childcare.
Yeah.
When it's like, first of all, we're talking, this business has nothing to do with childcare, so that, like, assume that this talented entrepreneur can manage the logistics of their life. And if you do want to ask everyone where they're going to put their kids, ask the male founders too.
Yeah.
And it's all of those levers of questioning assumptions to questions, questioning assumptions to all kinds of work. That book, Invisible Women, is so much fun.
Yeah.
Because it is all about, like, nothing in the world works sensibly because of how we assume things. There's another great book called Feminist Cities, about just like the infrastructure of the world just doesn't work for anyone except maybe really wealthy men. And it's, all these books are useful and great reads as well, but now turning these recognitions of bad assumptions of faulty design into redesign is the next step of the project.
For, like, echoing a lot of what you've both said, and it's barrier rather than solution focused, but maybe we can find a solution together. I think there are still different expectations, and I think it's really interesting. You know, you mentioned the childcare thing. So a lot of people in my sector are self-employed, and I think it's absolutely bananas that self-employed fathers don't get any sort of statutory paternity pay or leave. Nada. So we're making steps forwards in terms of shared parental leave for employees, but not for the self-employed. So social contracts.
Yeah.
And
let's
that's
like
not a bad set of
break
assumptions.
that open. Yeah.
You
of
assume
course
that
it
a
does.
self-employed man has a little woman watching his brood.
Yeah.
But also for self-employed men, or even just, you know, men who are in employment who are looking for some type of parental leave, it's the stigma attached to asking for that culturally is a barrier. That is a problem, right? Is that we should be able to open up spaces for men to be able to say, look, I'd really like this experience, right? I'd like to pitch in or support my partner or whatever. But even raising that conversation at work can be really hard for men.
It needs to be institutionalized. Like, I think Alexis Ohanian, I think that's how you say his name, when Serena Williams had their children, he very publicly was like, I'm taking parental leave, and also, now that I have children, I've noticed this gap. This is all for all Reddit employees are entitled to parental leave on top of enhancing maternity leave, because, you know, and it's wonderful that he learned from his lived experience to do that change. But we kind of need, we shouldn't wait till every CEO has a child and a consciousness raising moment to make the change. But that's usually how it happens. I think even Sheryl Sandberg had a similar situation where she was like, we need parking for parents close to the door because I'm walking 55 miles with like a child and it's ridiculous. And that's the stage everyone is in, like having their tiny ahas. And you've had this aha. I had no idea that like self-employed men had no legal supports to become parents. That's but as you said, like we shouldn't get lost in like the isms and the stories. Like, okay, you figured something out. There's like an iNews article. What's next?
Yeah.
Who do we need to call, and how do we force
fix
them?
this? How do we push this forward? So in my job at Cambridge, I do like tech transfer for social science, and we don't create new drugs, social scientists, and we don't do deep tech. We are the way that we have our impact and our influence on the world is through our relationships, through our partnerships, and the RSA is that. Right? And it's taken me a little while to be like, am I meant to be here? What am I supposed to be doing? Who do I talk to? And now I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm really starting to feel that this is the power in the RSA and the organization is in the fellowship, it's in the networks, it's in the conversations that you have. And as you just said, you've got to be your first yes. You've got to say, I'm going to go and ask that person this question. I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to reach out to this individual. I mean, the venue's beautiful, obviously, but it really is about the people. Yeah.
I feel that today as well. Like, I want to carry on these conversations, be able to sort of say, hey, what do you think about this? Or could we work on this together? Or, you know, that's really exciting. So thank you RSA for the opportunity to actually, come and talk and meet you both. We're not going to achieve massive progress as our own little solo beings. It's about the mycelium network. It's about the movements, and I'm certainly going to more and more now. I haven't participated in the network side of things here. I'm going to now, like having the conversations, empowering each other, supporting each other as we continue learning. That's what this can offer. Yeah. What about you, Lauren?
I joined the RSA because I was interested in the history of the RSA. It's huge and
270 years old. Yeah.
It's like unfathomable time-wise, but also being a young person, being someone from what was previously a British colony. Like it's a fraught history for me because if you do check anything 200 years old, you're not going to find very, very good press.
Yeah.
And I joined as part of the big push to have more young fellows, and I'm also in the Young Fellows Advisory Group so that we can expand that part of the membership. And I'm excited, and I want to be here for the next phase of the RSA's history, and what does the RSA look like in the 271st year, and how can we transition institutions such that they, reckon with their history and join 2024, which I think the RSA really is doing. And that's because as a change maker, as someone who's interested in the world continuously being better, sometimes everyone assumes you just need to build something else somewhere else, and that's often positive and that's often necessary. But you also need to move the institutions and be one of the voices that's encouraging them to shift. And I loved the idea of the opportunity to, by my presence and by my voice, be part of the 271st year of the RSA and what that could evolve into. And as you said, like an opportunity like this to speak to you and all the content that I'm inundated by as I play around on Circle, which is the RSA kind of membership network space, and also reading the physical journals that we receive in the mail. I had no idea I'd get an actual magazine.
Yeah.
And that continuous learning that you get from being part of an institution like this, which is invested in topics and themes across the spectrum of specialities.
It also really it's a beautiful coffee house.
Beautiful
It's a
building.
great meeting place. The library is wonderful. The librarian is amazing. There are a few books where I've said I need that, I'd like this for. She's like, oh, I don't have that on our shelves. Let me order that in for you.
Nice.
What a resource. That's
A
amazing.
godsend.
Yeah, you don't get that that I know of anywhere else.
Yeah.
So let's get this 34% female membership up to over 50.
Let's creep it up.